Thanks for all joining. This afternoon session's little slow, but I make sure you are actively participating in this one. So this is Venkat. I've been in IT sector more than 20 years now. Excuse me. So when I started my career in Hitachi way back in 2006, I was the first quality tester into the firm. So that time they don't have any QA team there. I had to build my team from the scratch. So now Hitachi has 150-member QA team. I want to present here in this course of 20 years of my journey into IT and particularly in Hitachi, 16 plus years, how I build my teams, how we are serving to Fortune 500 customers, right? Hitachi is a consulting firm. So we provide services to majorly for Fortune 500 customers and the blue chip companies. So how I developed my team, how I struggled with the on-site offshore team, and over a period of time, there are some best practices, came up, right? So those I wanted to share with you all. So why is this topic important? So this came into become more important during pandemic time. So before pandemic, still we have on-site offshore, right? But during pandemic, even the on-site team also working remotely. So no one is coming to office. Everyone is remote. It's a distributed teams. So working in the distributed teams and working on-site offshore, there are its own challenges, right? Over a period of time, I tried and tested many processes. I'll go through some real-time examples here and see what those 7 strategies I built. So this is not an exhaustive list of 7 strategies, right? This is myself, I tested and proven these strategies are worked very well. Now we are 150-member QA team spread across multiple geographies for our clients. So, and the finally lessons learned. So how many of you have experience in the working distributed teams here? Okay. And on-site offshore experience. Okay. Cool. So here there are 7 strategies I listed out. Time zones, communication, small work teams, seamless alignment, cross-functional meetings, accountability, and celebrating success. In each of these categories, I have some real-time examples how these strategies are worked effectively for me and my firm. So I can talk about that. So I know we have 45 minutes time, right? I would like to have some 35 to 40 minutes of presentation and give 5 to 10 minutes of Q&A. But each strategy, when I go through that, I open for any questions instead of wait for all the 7 strategies and you may forget some of the strategies, you have some issues or you want to get clarified. We'll take some interactive kind of sessions for each categories and see. Okay. Yeah. So the people who are connected remotely, you keep on type your questions. We'll take up that question in between. In between we'll take up that and answer those. Okay. Okay. The first strategy is time zones. So time zones are very, very critical if you're working in the distributed teams, right? The teams sitting in the US and teams in, for example, in India, in China, and Vietnam. I'm typically go through my examples, okay? And UK. So working with the teams sitting across multiple geographies is not an easy task, right? Coming all together into one office location and working is little easy, but compare with all the different teams working different geographies. So the major challenge I faced when I had these teams remotely is setting up the meetings. So when I set it meeting, for example, central time, 12, for example, 1 to 2, my offshore team. Don't mind, can I close this door? Is that okay? Yes. Oh, I think it's started. So, like for example, 1 to 2 central time, if I set up a meeting, typically my offshore team cannot participate. So how to resolve this issue? Because 1 to 2 is the time where my customer is participating in those meetings. I cannot ask my offshore team sitting in India, stay till midnight for this, right? So I had to try a different options here. So finally we concluded that let's have a fixed time. 9 to 11 is the window, central time. Is all client meetings will be happen. Only those time, 9 to 11 central. So all my offshore team can present all those meetings. They start their day a little early, like maybe 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. They stay until the last meeting, 11 a.m. central time. So that way, all the team members across the geographies, they're able to participate in those meetings. And give employees appropriate advance. Like, I don't want to send a team meeting, like meeting invite just a 1 day before or 2 days before, since teams are spread across the globe, right? I wanted to give them advance, at least a 1 week of advance time. The meeting is when the meeting is happening, and also which time zone we are having this time meeting, right? So, for example, if I ask a person sitting in China, hey, send me a status report by 9, so 9 p.m. It's very confusing, right? What time zone you are asking? Are you asking central, or is my time zone, or IST, GST? What is that? So make sure very clearly mention if you ask something, what time zone you are expecting that work to be done, or a status report, whatever it is, right? And also I didn't mention over here, basically we have one more strategy, like the key meetings, like all hands. Every quarterly we have an all hands meeting. So we cannot cater all the people, we have 200 people across the globe into one meeting. So we set up 2 meetings which cater to 2 different, to cater all the time zones, basically. So that is also one of the strategy we used when we have meetings with our offshore team. Okay. So any questions? Yeah, can keep asking, not a problem. Any thoughts, your experiences?
Experiences?
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked at Amazon. Tester. It's in Warsaw. So yeah, we had a certain just in agreement.
Yeah. So that's a good example. That's how we were able to resolve that problem. Not attending. Offshore had always complained, hey, we are not attending the meetings who are client present. So
yeah, I feel like you're paying as well for getting people in alignment to like all hands. Like both teams that we work with, internally and externally, have their own separate all hand meetings. They are getting their own separate information from their heads, executives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, they have their own type of initiatives. And then like the certain systems that we use, right, have to be shared, permissions or applications or such.
Yeah.
Bogs down how fast are those vendors can get on and start working through task setting.
Yeah.
Time is such, I mean, it's our number one enemy. I'm glad you said it, number one.
Yeah. So that is the time zones one. The next one is communication. So now our Teams chat is becoming a new office now, right? Earlier we are all physically located at one place, that is our office, but that is no more an office now. Our teams are, whatever the communication tool we use. So typically we use in our company, most of the clients, Hitachi use Teams, Microsoft Teams. That is our virtual office. So we ask them, we have some guidelines. So during work hours, make sure everyone present online. If not, of course, everyone has some personal things, right? If you are away certain period of time, 1 hour or 2 hours, just make sure you update the status there. It appears, right? I'm away, I'm out of the pocket for 2 hours. And people who can see, they can understand you're not available online. So Microsoft Teams is pretty much for us, it is a virtual workspace, and meet regularly with open communication. So this is something like in the team meetings, the typical problem is in certain cultures, asking openly is also a problem. So it's a cultural thing. It's not their problem or something, right? So they can't ask questions in the meetings. They always listen and see. If someone asks them, then only they will respond. So as a leader, I always want to make sure my offshore team understand what we are talking about. So I particularly ask people like, hey, for example, is somebody like Venu or something, Srihan. So do you have any questions? Are you clear about this? So make sure, double check with your remote team, they are understanding what we are talking about, right? And as I said, recognize the cultural modes of communication. So like each country has their own holidays, and make sure you respect their cultures and their festivals. So for example, in India recently, they had a major festival happening, Dasara. So people during that period on and off, because there are a lot of rituals at home. So we totally understand from here, from Onsite, and make sure whatever customer is required, if offshore is not present, we'll try to deliver that. So to respect their cultural modes and make sure they fully understand what we are asking and what we are delivering to the customers. Right? So any experiences, thoughts in this? Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is enemy number one for businesses. I mean, communication in general, before businesses fail.
Yeah, number one.
Number one for business.
Yeah.
In line with communication as well, especially for when you mention offshore, mainly the offsite.
Offsite, basically, yeah.
They're mainly like vendor partners that you're working with.
Right.
I think other communication, one thing that's important as well is terminology, because at times, your vendor partners may have a different terminology of some of the tests.
Yeah.
Terms that your company is using. So, trying to make certain that, hey, this is what we mean when we say this. So having that alignment of terminology is important.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, sometimes the typical those terms. For example, if someone says pull the plug from the project, means someone in the offshore team, they didn't understand what does that means. So just making sure if you are communicating with them, make sure they understand in their language what we are speaking about, right? So I always, when I'm at my customer side, I always make sure whatever my customer says, after the customer call, I'll ask my team, hey, do you understand everything what he says? Or do you have any questions, any topics you didn't understand? I'll make sure I'll explain them after the call. So that is most important thing in the communication side. Any other thoughts?
So there was a time we changed leaders in my team, and most of the time before the leadership was changed, most people don't come on cameras, right? Like on one team, so everybody just turn on the cameras, everybody goes on camera. It's just been like that.
So we turn on the cameras while meeting happening. Yeah.
Then new leader came. You wanted to really like, okay, we don't know what you guys are up to.
Right.
Do you guys, want to turn on your cameras, or what do you guys think? And nobody, it never picked up steam, So when you think communication like that really impacts the way people work together, right? Because some people are like, hey, you to come tell me to turn on my camera. I work regardless, I don't want to turn on.
Exactly. Yeah.
When communication like that becomes an issue.
Yeah. So
that?
yes, I had the similar problem. So my offshore team, very hesitant to switch on their video cameras. At Onsite, we always be, we know client face to face, we know them, whether we turn on the camera or not, that doesn't matter, but we always turn on the camera. But offshore team, somehow they're hesitant. I had to take that call. I had to talk to each one-on-one, hey, what is the problem? So there are some issues for them. They said, hey, when I turn on the camera, there are the kids running around home, so they may see in the video and all, this is a small room, I'm sitting here, I don't want to show my background and all. I said, see, we are working in the new era now. So in the working environment, having family, kids here and there going, it's perfectly okay. Even my son comes when I'm having the meetings, then he says hi and go. That's okay. So after a continuous coaching for them, few weeks individually. So after that, we made a decision that morning every stand-up, we are running agile projects. So morning stand-up happens 15 minutes. Everyone should be on the camera 15 minutes. So we make that conscious decision to at least the minimum thing. We want to see each individual and talk with the customer. So that is successfully going with the team now. Okay. Yeah. So we have time also less. We want to move on other strategies. So there is a question, it seems. Oh, what is the issue? That's what I was wondering. We can hear sound sometime. Okay. Yeah. He's saying the same concern, like there is a background noise. Hope he's not saying the background noise from here, right? He's talking about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the third strategy is small work teams. At one point of time, I worked a big team, 20 plus members, and the smallest team I worked 5 plus members. But the struggle is when I work with 20 plus members, it's a huge team, right? In even our agile forces us to have 8 to 10 members in a team. It's maximum 2 teams. So how to tackle the situation? I had to do multiple experiments with them because all my offshore team sitting there and myself and one business analyst sitting here. So I'm talking about entire IT perspective because it's all IT side, right? Hope we are all in IT. So, so what I did, I make each team a point of contact. For example, a team A has 5 people. I make one point of contact, a lead kind of person I identify. The role itself is a rotating. So first I'll assign that lead responsibilities point of contact to one person from each of the team. So 4 point of contacts established for a 20-member team. And any key message I want to deliver, I want to make sure these 4 people understood very well to delegate that message to their teams. Instead of bringing everyone into the group meeting setting and talking to 20 plus members in a meeting and deliver the message, I talk these point of contacts, 4 point of contacts. I thoroughly make sure they understand what the message. So they will delegate that message to their teams. So that's how the small work teams are work very well. Not only for communication, right? The work also. If you have a cross-functional teams, right? Like we were running into a large program, a testing program. There are multiple teams. So there is a data team, there is a security team, there is a functional team. So all these teams are cross-functional, right? We have a meeting every weekly, have a cross-functional meeting. Like each point of contact from these groups will attend that cross-functional meetings and understand what is the dependency on each other team. For example, data team there is a UI need to be developed in order to send this data. So they will check that, hey, my timeline is, for example, in the November 2nd week, we are going to deliver this service, to deliver this data. Are you going to ready with the UI? So are you able to ingest this data? So like that, we have a cross-functional meetings and make sure the product we deliver, the feature we delivered in the agile, it aligns well with across all the functional areas, right? And keep meetings small. So this is one thing I liked it, the 2 pizza rule. Jeff Bezos invented that. basically what he says, a meeting should serve people the two pizza. The two pizzas should serve the people who are in the meeting sufficiently. That's the size you wanted to expect. Not like 15 people, 20 people, that so only two pizzas can serve in the meeting. So I like that. So we have those meetings like maximum 5 to 6 people in the, make sure we have a right audience in the meeting. If really people not required, not for the sake of attending meeting, we don't want to attend that meeting. If you are not adding value to the meeting, you are free to opt out. So make sure if you are in the meeting, you are adding value. So we make that the conscious decision to make sure small people attend the meetings. Yeah.
So this side would be cheese and that side pepperoni.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, two pizza. Any experiences here? Running into big teams, a lot of people, right? Oh. Oh, QA itself, 18, 19 people?
Yeah.
Oh my.
Developers, backend, front end, design is actually considered part of our team, so good to hear everyone stand up in the morning, it takes 45 minutes.
Oh my God.
Also because there's no time boxing stand-ups.
Right.
And so the Scrum Masters allow conversations to happen endlessly. So at some point you just reach meeting burnout.
Oh.
And everyone's sports,
Right,
which
right.
should.
Sure.
But you stop paying attention just as a human.
Right.
You kind of tune out. So we're trying to enforce work with the team, maybe back end and then however it will shake out. But right now it's not working. So you have too many meetings, communication kind of be transparent.
Right.
But then stop going to meetings and paying attention.
Right. Right.
Would the Scrum Master want to do just how I a little bit better?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, everybody has a voice, right? At a certain point, what I hear from communication is people can talk in circles, and when everybody just, kind of just either they need to be engaged in the meeting on camera and like maybe giving thumbs up or nods to like have that virtual or like actual handshake of like, I understand what you're saying. We move on to the next priority, and then move on to the next person, because again, we all have a voice, and some people don't want to speak up, but I think it's up to the Scrum Masters to understand, okay, I've gotten information, maybe my key identifiers that I know, like pick up on things, have gotten that too, let's move on to the next person. And maybe, but yeah. See, I'm talking in circles.
Yeah.
So I am, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, even in those scenarios, if 18, 19 people, so make like your BAs from 3 or 4 BAs, talk one BA one day, give the update, and next day other BA. Everyone has a voice, right? Instead of four people talk in that same meeting, it may go 45 minutes, 1 hour. If I was there, maybe I'll try that. Okay.
I think you make a good point, though. The Scrum Master is more.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm supposed to be a Scrum Master, but I totally accept this. It's all about focusing and saying that is something we need to talk about afterwards. It doesn't involve everybody. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Exactly. Precisely mentioned that what you have done yesterday, what you are going to do today, and impediments. Just finish those 3 lines. So if they have any issues, they can always go for offline conversation after that, like that. Okay, good examples.
I honestly, sorry.
Yeah. Schedule for 50 minutes, but it go beyond that.
The developer is talking about, hey, this is the issue I had. And then people start to show solutions like, oh, we'll do this. But then when it's getting too long, maybe 10 minutes, like, okay, let's talk about it after the schedule time. But you're still there. Then everybody will be like, okay, I want to listen to that. We don't have so much.
Right.
It's just been born.
Yep, it all happens. Okay, so move on to next. Oh, charts are. Okay, for me, I tend to directly ask them for their feedback, but I use that technique for all individuals who might be the quiet members of the team. I think this one about the communication part, it seems, right? Okay, yeah. So quiet members ask them feedback. Yeah. Answer to the question above me. Okay. I'm trying to understand exactly the question. I tend to directly ask them for their feedback, but I use that technique for all individuals who might be the quiet members of the team. Are you seeing this now? So basically what I understood this question is the people who are quiet, explicitly ask them what is their feedback. Yeah, I mean, I ask them their feedback in one-on-one setting, not in the group setting. So if there are people are quiet, even they are, they asked to talk, but they didn't talk, then after the meeting, I'll make one-on-one call. So that's my approach. Hope that answers. Okay. The fourth one is seamless alignment. So again, working in on-site, offshore, remote. So seamless alignment is a big challenge because the real-time scenario, I can tell you. So the work handoff, whatever the work on-site done, that should transition to smoothly to the offshore team, right? Sometimes it's not happened for us when we are trying to do with the offshore setting. This is a long time back. So the people at offshore, they understood it differently. They repeated the work, whatever on-site already done. It's a duplicated work. So to resolve that issue, we have we created a shared folder, access to across all the members of the project, and make sure the artifacts, whatever if the developer is, the code is checked in, and if it is a tester, check whatever documentation he developed is a test strategy or test plan or test cases. Make sure those are all available in the shared folder by end of the day. And send a note to the individuals. Hey, I have done, for example, my task is finish 20 test cases for this feature. I finished 10 and the documentation is available in the shared folder. So from there, they can continue the work. Instead of previously, we used to say, hey, I'm working on this one, it's in progress. Offshore guy, he started again and he does the same thing again. He says, end of the day, again, it's in progress. So that's the issue we faced, and we make sure that the documentation is right in the right place and the communication sent to the right individuals by end of the day, right? So basically set the same tools, frameworks, and resources across all the locations like on-site, offshore, everywhere, all follow the same process, same frameworks. So do anybody see these challenges? I see sometimes having access certain folders or certain environments offshore may not access because of the restrictions into the VPN or something. So I faced a lot previously when I was working with clients. But later, at least right now, the major automaker I'm working in Texas. So for that client, we set up everything for on-site and offshore has the same access levels. So that everyone accesses the same thing, right? So any experiences here?
One of the things that we're sort of like, struggling to through with one of our vendor partners is the way they sort of like their process on setting up some of the testers, to where we found that it's causing some security onboarding problems on our side.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely, it falls down to your same process for both on-site and offshore. So since that's their process, we have to work carefully with them, kind of like not telling them what to do, so to speak. That's what we give them. So that's just one sort of challenge.
Right.
Trying to fix.
Yeah. So one of the onboarding process also, when people are on site, they have a onboarding process from the customer. and offshore has a vendor on-site onboarding process. There is a slight difference. So later we realized that, okay, when we have the same process for the team, we make sure these both onboarding process are aligned. For example, onboarding, so like that. So sorry,
I'm in a conference.
Team Cheese uses Zoom, and Team Pepperoni uses Microsoft Teams. And Team Zoom, or Team Cheese, like, is the internal. So yeah, having to go over there and add my pepperoni onto my cheese is slowing down my process. I don't have access to Teams. My company doesn't want Teams. They want it. Yeah, so like that communicate that preference, right? We go back to number 2. If 2 is business enemy number 1, right? And I'm slowing down my milliseconds for time to get into your communication. You're wasting time. Right?
Okay. So did you ask a question or something?
No,
Just
okay.
Okay. Yeah, seamless learning. Yeah, that. But this is good. See, these experiences enrich my presentation for the next time. Yeah, please.
Yeah, we have overlap for like it's actually really nice to like with different times because we can finish a lot of work on site and then we have like a test report, we do like a warm handoff kind of at the end of it. So here's everything that you need. They actually don't have like access to us. We configure them all for them.
Yeah.
Just another way of doing it that works.
Right.
If you have it also helps you stay up.
Exactly. Yeah. And also by end of the day, I used to, of course, now also I'm doing a status dashboard which contains precisely what we have done at onsite. So what offshore can take up the remaining work, so that it is a distributed list. It goes to all the team members. So yeah, that is also one of the tool. Any other thoughts? Okay. More charts. Okay. I will try this in stand-ups. Call on people as needed for updates. We'll consider one-on-one if it becomes necessary. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, especially it's the same thing you mentioned. Okay. Okay, so cross-functional meetings. So as I mentioned, so each team has a different focus area. For example, consider here 3 teams. One is the data, second one is a procurement team, and the other one is a security team, right? If all these teams working on silos, it's very difficult at the end, at the MVP, so most valuable product, right? We call it as a MRP, most releasable product, most releasable product, most viable product, MVP. So for MVP, if all these three teams are not aligned, it is difficult to achieve that MVP, right? So that's why in our program, we have every weekly cross-functional meetings happens to make sure what is their roadmap, team A roadmap, what is team B roadmap, where are the integration points, are these integration points are aligning with the deliverables what we have planned. So those are very productive. Based on that, we understand, okay, we need to tweak a little bit. Okay, this feature needs to be developed maybe after a month because this is a dependency with other teams. So yeah, basically discuss all the dependencies and adjust your timeline accordingly with other teams. So did you face any challenges with this one, working with the cross-functional teams? At the quarter end, you realize that, hey, no, that team A should have done this before we have done something like that, right? So
okay. I'll mention something I see up there.
Mm-hmm.
Team is good DevOps. few of those, but actually include other stakeholders that are involved to get even more, if they're interested in, at a broader level of the organization, they cease. I think, yeah, I see bullet point.
Yeah, exactly. We always ask them to participate in those meetings, tell what's your thoughts, what's your perspective on this one, right? Instead of just having those meetings and discuss the dependencies, we ask definitely people on what is their opinions. Do you think it is viable from our team? So, yeah. Any other thoughts?
I'm actually curious to see what your take is on, we discussed earlier on the small team, right?
Right.
And, some of the pitfalls to where, meetings, that make it short. For something like this, where you have this sounds like more like a bigger,
Right.
bigger group of people, which we also have with our teams. I'm curious, what's your insight on how to organize?
Right.
The meeting doesn't go past.
Yeah, of course, yeah. It looks like a contradicting. We talked about small teams, now we are multiple teams, cross-functional. But I also mentioned a point like point of contact from each team. So basically, we pick those individuals from each team and ask them to participate as a mandatory. Rest of the team always we keep optional, and we clearly tell them if you are adding value, if you have something thoughts about this, join this meeting. Otherwise, your point of contact will be taken care in those meetings. That's how we have a controlled environment for these cross-functional meetings. Yeah. Again, that point of contact always changes. Like team, they don't want to feel like he's always a lead. I don't get an opportunity. It's not like that. So every quarterly we change. Other person will come as a point of contact unless they explicitly say no. I don't want to be that role. Yeah. So that way, team feel that we're all valued in the team. Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay. And accountability. So the ownership of tasks is very, very important in the agile environment and the distributed teams. For example, what happens like given a task, people may think that offshore may take more responsibility or ownership of the task because we are working remotely. We are not facing the client. That is not the case. We always make sure if a task given to the member, whether he is on-site or offshore, he's 100% responsible for that. Don't want to go and do micromanage every day what you are doing, how much you are doing, and just have a checkpoint. Daily stand-up, they will talk about that task, but end of the sprint, they are responsible to deliver that. So it took a lot of time for us to cultivate this habit. Initially, offshore team always says, I'm done my work. I don't know the quality of this work. It's all, if it is an issues or occur in that work, we'll figure it out in the next sprint. But that is not the case always. The idea 2 weeks of sprint is make sure we develop, test, and make sure according to the acceptance criteria. Everything is met, then only we consider as a done. That is a definition of done. So that was poorly followed previously, but later we enforce this ownership of tasks, then we see some good results over there. So use tools to manage task progress. We have various tools like we use SharePoint and story points, measuring that exactly measure the volume of the work in the sprint planning. So yeah, and make sure what you are expecting, make sure it's very clear. So that's why our sprint plannings goes beyond that time. Like for example, we always have a 2 hours window for the sprint plannings, making sure each and every story and feature understood by the team members. If anyone has a concern about, hey, why this story is a 5-pointer, why can't this is a 3-pointer? Let's openly discuss that. What is his points there? Yeah. So make sure our expectations are very clear on while developing that particular feature. And the peer review. So not only we encourage, we make it the mandate now, peer review. Whatever, for example, I have done work, so you will peer review and make sure that is as per the requirements. Then governance review happens. Governance review typically from the customer side. Customer also will involve on our day-to-day things, right? At the end of the sprint, customer look into all these stories. Okay, this is peer review done, and governance review also they will do and make sure it's all met their criteria. Because there are some regulatory rules at the customer place, right? For example, in the automobile or healthcare industry. So they look for those regulatory compliance are followed in that work. So any thoughts on this one? Peer review, accountability side?
You brought up definition of stuff. The especially
Right.
it's so key that steps back for all of us.
Yeah.
When you can agree on a definition of that, like communication gets better, like everything, meetings are more productive, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, traceability matrix, something I did not mention here, but traceability matrix is something, a piece of code developed and that must be tracked through a requirement. So every work, whatever developer or whoever done, that must be go back to the requirement tagging. So no requirement can be an orphan. So each requirement should have a proper traceability. So that is also one of the mechanism. Yeah, so accountability is very, very important to delivering the high quality products in the team. So just a quick time check. Till 4:15, right? Sorry. 3:30 to 4:15 or 4:16. Okay, I'll quickly run through. Just there is I think the last one we have.
I think just one last thing.
Yeah, sure.
Adding just session as well to the review, like encouraging peer sessions. So you do a little bit of session. Right. And doing that with an aesthetic,
Yeah.
Again, team cheese, team pepperoni. I can be looking at static and analyzing your code almost from a different
point of view.
Oh, hey, you missed that sign. Sure, the interpreter might pick it up, but I could, as you're typing it out, I'd be like, that's the simplest.
Yeah. So we have a subtask. For example, in the Jira, we have a task, main task. There is a subtask for the peer review and governance review. Until those checkboxes are done, we cannot mark this main story as a done. So that's how we imposed this work as peer reviewed and governance review.
Okay. Yeah, accountability, right? Yeah, having our developers getting a feature over to us, right?
Yeah.
Stopping their fingers from typing and making sure wait, get in and do things.
And the last one, celebrating success is always important. So every quarterly we celebrate our team with the great work done, acknowledge their good behavior. And there are some examples here. There are some categories here: shining star, techno wins, client centricity, and innovation. We have those categories to award our people in the quarterly and all hands meetings, right? So, and also like monetary gifts. For example, we recently had that every sprint, the testing team, whoever found the major defects, valid ones, not invalid ones, they will be awarded a $50 Amazon gift card. So there is some kind of encouragement, right? And there are individual internal awards. As I mentioned, those are all internal awards. And reward them with more responsibilities is something like the point of contact I mentioned. So whoever doing well and recognize them, hey, for the next quarter, you represent team as a point of contact in our cross-functional meetings. So we rotate like that. Yeah, so and the last, the lessons learned. So experimentation is a key because I did a lot of experimentation. Not all strategies are worked out. So a lot of strategies are failed. We couldn't achieve the results. But at least whatever I presented today, those are all, have seen the good results with that. So be patient when you are doing some experimentation with the team. And so set your tone as a leader your team is buying your vision. So have an open communication. Always have, so I always have one-on-ones, my team always in every day basis. So not everyone, like, I have a rotation like, right, every day with one. So by end of 2 weeks, again, the first person will come to my one-on-one meetings like that. So the 3C rule is, I strongly believe, like clarity, what they are going to do, make sure they understand fully what is their task and their competence. If they are not competent, make sure they have enough training given to them, whether it could be internal or external, or coach them or mentor them, and collaborate. As I mentioned, all these principles leads to a good collaboration. So collaboratively work with, whether it could be on-site or offshore. So yeah, those are all lessons learned.